get this show on the road here. I'm going to ask again because we got a few more people here. Maybe we were feeling shy, and now that we embarrassed Rudy, maybe we're feeling a little bit less shy. Any wins? You know, we love celebrating wins here. We love having this community. I know last week what we talked about, Robert led the call. We talked about creating cadence in your business, having rocks in your schedule, you know, that type of thing, really just getting in a good workflow, how important that is as the business owner. If you have any wins or even just started, like, that's a win. If you started a new habit that you didn't have before, you know, even if you haven't seen results from it yet, it's a win just getting into that habit. And so if anybody has any wins, I would love for you to just unmute and share with us what's good that's been happening.
Okay, I got a win. I have we're gonna hit $1 million this year, so I need $30,000 more. It's $1 million, so we'll have it though. I already got a job for $30,000, so we're guaranteed to get it. So
woohoo! That is so exciting.
That's first time ever. So since I signed up with you guys, so good job.
Wow.
Let's go. Well, that's a lot of you. That's a lot of you, Bobby. You know, you're so coachable, and we are so grateful for it. But that is huge, especially considering that you basically had a month that you weren't in the business recently, right. You know, and we're still gonna get over our goal. So looking forward to what next year brings for you.
Yeah.
Any other wins here? Okay. Say that again, Dwayne.
I approved the new logo.
Approved the new logo. Okay.
He did.
And
that's a big deal. It's happened.
and I approved the new website layout.
Hey. Well,
I love it. Dwayne is digging in good. I appreciate that.
We love that you see that as a win, Dwayne, because us coaches see that as a huge win, because sometimes people get stuck in the edits doom loop. And so I'm glad it's a win for you. It's definitely a win for us. So we're excited about that. Okay. Well, Bryce, I'm going to let you take it from here. What we're going to be talking about today is Financial Power Moves Part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, I'm going to put a link to that group call in the chat. If you aren't quick enough to copy it, you should have plenty of time, but ask from your coach. We can give you the whole group call inventory. It might seem a little bit intimidating, but you don't have to see part 1 to really get something out of this part 2, but I'm going to put the link there for those of you who maybe weren't there for that call. But Bryce, I'm going to let you take it away.
All righty. So I'm actually starting out talking about a win here, and this is related to the part 1 version of this call. So if you guys remember, those that were here, we talked about with financial super moves, collections, draw schedules, change orders, and callback policies. And World Fire Protection, you may have heard if you were in the group call a couple of weeks ago, we had a win from them about having reduced their 60 days past due accounts receivable by 80%. Well, I just talked to them this week, and it gets even better. So we documented out their collections process and actually established a cadence with it from our last call last week. And they told me that their accounts receivable is actually the lowest that I believe that it's ever been. And let me show you something that we did, because I think this is really accessible for everybody here. We documented their collections process. And I want you to know, whenever we talk about documenting stuff, it doesn't have to be this crazy complex thing. This is literally 5 steps. And that's it. It's nothing fancy, nothing crazy. And that's what got them to their lowest accounts receivable that they've ever had, is telling their team exactly what it is that we're going to do and establishing a rhythm. Every Wednesday, they manage the finances. This is probably the biggest thing that helped. And what Arena and Denai, I don't think they're here, I just checked, but what they told me is that the people that they were getting the accounts receivable from were basically saying, I know Irina's going to call me on Wednesday. I need to get this taken care of to get it covered with. I don't want to hear from her again next Wednesday. Yes, finally, let's work something out. Wow. And that's what did it. So huge win for them personally as a company. But I want to use that to re-emphasize the point from last time about setting a cadence in your business, and also from the Super Moves Part 1 about establishing a process and just doing collections and communicating it up front with clients.
Bryce, I couldn't help but notice there wasn't a step in there that said, check how you feel today if this is something you should do.
There is
or
not.
Check
There
on
is
your
not.
emotions.
Yes.
I feel like that's a good thing. So that's probably the
Yeah.
best part about that.
There's an old phrase that we used to throw around a lot, and I'm reminded of right now is don't let E get in front of motion. Don't let emotion stop you from doing what you know you need to do. And that's actually something that we'll talk a little bit about here in a little bit. So on the agenda for today, team, is going to be Financial Super Moves Part 2. We're going to be talking about a couple of things, and I'll get into that here in a minute. Breakout rooms, we're going to actually do the things we're talking about. Hoping for this to be pretty straightforward, but if you guys have some questions at the end, definitely ask them and use the breakout room time to really do that. If you got burning fires, address them, make it known. So we're talking about estimate comparisons, expense tracking, and banking. I'll explain what that means here in a minute, but this is our topic. I'm giving you a teaser because I'm going to ask you about this in a second. Again, I want to talk about last time because it's such an important topic that we covered. Overall, everything that we talked about in the Super Moves Part 1 is prefaced by proper prior planning and communication. There's this quote that this is the exact slide that I had last time that we talked. It was kind of the summary slide here. Exceptional leaders are fearless in setting expectations in clear language. Guys, ultimately, if we tell a customer upfront how the collection cycle works, they're going to adhere to it. You set the standard. How you communicate matters. If you're communicating in this matter-of-fact style and you're coming across as basically an expert witness, think about yourself being put on the stand. They're going to bring in somebody that really knows the trade to help understand the case. That's all you're doing is communicating the facts whenever it comes to collections, draw schedules, change orders, callback policies, really protecting your business financially. This is what it's about, is communicating up front. And again, with all of this, we're going to kind of grind up against some feeling things, I think, today a little bit. But you really do become a premier provider, not only within your company to your staff and your team, but also externally to anybody in your area. You become the premier provider when people know that you hold a different standard. People have all their stereotypes, their expectations of what a contractor is like. We're trying to be different than that. And that's what we're all about here. So into our stuff for today. And I am looking for some interaction here. There are some silent and subtle cash flow killers. We've talked about the others last time. Collections, draw schedules, change orders, callback policies. What are some things that kill cash flow that we didn't talk about last time? Last time we talked about, stuff that is really due to other people, protecting yourself and your business from other people. Kind of look inwardly a little bit this time. What are some things that kill cash flow? Just unmute and pop in here.
No communication up front.
Yep. Was that Malcolm?
Yep.
Nice.
Not setting proper expectations. That's huge. That's a big part of it. Malcolm
Absolutely.
says that because he's now been implementing that agreement that we came up with. So he's fixing that.
Yeah.
Not even asking for the money.
Not even asking.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. Yav, you got any input? What kills cash flow?
Well, in my case, it's basically not charging up front. And I can give you one example. We recently we had a it's an association, actually. It's an apartment association that they ordered something from us, and we couldn't complete it. So basically it's sitting here, and we went there several times. We did what we're supposed to do, and now we're waiting for an approval from the village to continue doing our job. And in the meantime, we're out of money.
Yep. No, I love it. So yes, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. That's one of the things that I wanted to bring up here.
And Shatoya just added in the chat, not having a system when money comes in, overspending. This is where we see it the most at Redmond Growth, is we look at a P&L and we're like, okay, this shows that you're profitable, but you're telling me you have no money. It's because we don't know where the money is going. And so that's huge. I love that you shared that, Shatoya.
Yep. Yeah, these are exactly what I'm talking about here. And I would summarize even what you said, Yav, in this banking question mark that I said a minute ago. But we're going to kind of follow the reverse timeline of a project here. And what I mean by that is, we have the inception of a project when someone accepts a job, we're creating a bid for them. Then we have the actual action of doing the project. There's stuff that we can be monitoring there. And then there's also the completion of the project. What are we doing at the end of the day? Inaccurate estimating is probably one of the biggest cash flow killers that is really subtle and really behind the scenes. And I don't say that because you guys are bad at doing pricing. And I don't say that at all. What I'm saying is it's inaccurate because we haven't verified it or we haven't double checked it in a while. And then there's also some tips and tricks. There might be a financial moves part 3. As I was putting together some of this content, I think that there might be a lot of room to talk about just estimating. Some of you already know this concept, and I'm only going to briefly talk about it right now, but there's an idea between margin and markup. If you are taking your bid, your cost of materials, and you're just multiplying that by, 20%, 1.1, in order to find out what you're charging a customer, if you do the math in reverse and find out how much of the cost of the job equals of the total price that you gave the customer, instead of it being 80%, and you have 20% profit left over, you're actually getting much closer to, I think it's 95% and 15% left over. So you're expecting a 20% profit because you multiplied by 1.2, but you're not actually going to get a 20% profit. Your numbers aren't going to work out that way. So that's something that we might cover in a couple of weeks here. But the first thing that I'm going to talk about today is just inaccurate estimating because we haven't verified it. A second thought here about subtle silent cash flow killers is that expenses outpace customer payments. It's related to the draw schedules, but we're going to talk about it in a different frame of mind here. Again, we're looking more inwardly. What can we do about it internally? And then the third place is trusting people. No, I'm just kidding. We're not that cynical. I'm talking about being a bank here. This is what Yav was talking about. We do not need to be bankers. We don't need to be setting up interest-free loans. And we'll talk about that more here in a minute.
Bryce, I thought I was doing something right, and you just hurt my feelings right there.
Yes, kidding. we can still trust people. We can still trust people, but we shouldn't be a bank. We shouldn't be a business that we're not. So we're going to talk about estimates and estimate comparisons, expense tracking, and then offering financing here. So does anybody know who this guy is? I know this is kind of a risk throwing this out there, but I'm sure all of you with kids should have an idea who this guy is. Come on, somebody do it. All right, fine, I'll do it. You got me. I couldn't wait long enough. This is the bird from Storks, the Disney movie. And the reason I have this up here is because you guys that are in this call, you are the boss.
I wish I had seen this movie, Bryce, because I feel like you probably just killed that impression and it just went over my head. But
thank you.
I appreciate your confidence in doing it.
Thank you. I need that affirmation. Yes, so you guys are the bosses here. When we talked last time, we had the umbrella of setting expectations, protecting yourself from other people. This stuff that we're talking about today is entirely in your court as a business owner. You determine what's standard for your company. It's going to require some ownership of you here, and it may grind against a little bit. I'm not trying to be make everybody feel bad, but we are going to talk about some stuff that really we need to own as the owners here. Once these things get set up in place, they're going to keep you protected and profitable. Again, you set the standard and equip your team and your business and yourself for success by doing these things. So in this first part, something doesn't quite add up. Any of these questions here, does anybody resonate with the things that are on this slide? You feel like money in the bank account isn't what you expected, feeling like you aren't profitable, you're not sure why, jobs just keep going over time and budget. Anybody? Nobody? Wow, that's awesome. All right. So if these are things that you're feeling, it's time to review your estimates. What we talked about a minute ago with Jonathan and I is don't let yourself be stuck in your feelings. If you feel this way, verify reality. Make sure that it either is truly money's not there, something's wrong. Odds are either your estimating is off or your production is off, which we should account for in the way that we do our estimating. So I hope my Russian's right. If someone knows Russian better than me, then please correct me. But dovrei, no povrei. Trust, but verify. Ronald Reagan said this in to the Russian Prime Minister, I believe. It's an old Russian proverb that I think has so much validity to everything that we do. In management, in dealing with customers, trust, but verify. When we're doing estimate comparisons, and in this whole conversation, I want to talk about just trust yourself, but verify the reality. For clarity, you've got to believe and trust in your pricing or you won't be selling well. But we should always verify after everything that's all said and done to make sure that things are as they should be. When we're doing these estimate comparisons, this practice is probably going to identify more than just money issues. It's going to probably identify other pain points in your business. I want to challenge and encourage you guys to seize everything that falls out from this as an opportunity. Don't be stuck in the feelings. Getting to a place of clarity is important here. And clarifications are gold. They should be treated as precious. Whenever we find out a reason why something's not working quite properly, those are opportunities. So seize them. If you're saying, I'd like to do these estimate comparisons, but I don't know how, this is where we're going to get into it. We want to track during and after the projects. So it's really going to be simple. Take the main things that go into making an estimate. You have labor, you've got materials, you've got subcontractors potentially, and you've got your labor hours. And we just want to compare what we estimated versus what actually happened. In doing so, this is a spreadsheet that I took from a client that I did this with a while back. We found out a lot of really important things. Not only were we going over on the labor hours that we estimated, but even at this point, we found that we didn't collect the final payment on this job. We thought it was done. And we ended up collecting an extra $8,000 because we just remembered that that was happening. That's why the bank account didn't look the way that it should. And this happens to anybody. This is not somebody just being a fool. This happens to all of us probably. If we took a really fine look at what's going on in reality versus what we expected to happen when we set up the estimate, some of this stuff is going to really fall out and make a lot of sense. So all it takes is setting aside time to do this. And what I want to say as well is to do it monthly with a few jobs, not just one, but set up a regular rhythm. Do it before you need it. And I would go so far as to say that this could even be a selling point whenever you guys are doing this regularly. You know, if you talk to a customer and say, hey, actually, we know the accuracy of our pricing and our estimating, we actually review it regularly, you know, once monthly. What a powerful selling point.
My biggest challenge, and I don't know how others feel about this, is striking a balance between estimates that we convert into orders and margins. So, I mean, I'm looking at my margins constantly. I know where I need to be, but at the same time, there's always somebody who can do it cheaper. So, you know, the people are calling, they're asking for estimates. We provide estimates, and I'm trying to keep at the margins that I'll, you know, that I have target margins. Mm-hmm. And it's just how the most difficult part is how do I strike a balance between not losing clients and keeping the margins at the same time. And it's the industry that I'm in is it's difficult. It's competitive. We have a lot of people that come in here. They're asking, let's say, oh, I want you to do that for me, and we provide an estimate. They go down across the street and they're like, well, the guy across the street is doing for $100. Well, what's your price? And they're like, well, 80. You know, it's like this is what I'm. And I had numerous conversations with corporate, because we're part of a franchise, and they said, well, you know, those are not your clients. Well, then who is my client? You know, I mean, how do I get more business and keep my margins? One way is, you know, of course, being reputable. You know, basically having your clients' trust, and you know, if you want to save $20, you know, yeah, go across the street. But if you want a job well done, then just come to us. So that's the balance that I'm very struggling daily, because we do a lot of estimates. We do provide a lot of estimates, but maybe I would say 40% of those convert into orders.
Malcolm, are you still on this call? Malcolm, are you still there?
Yeah.
He's
sorry.
nodding.
Okay. Okay, Malcolm, I'm calling you out because this is something that you and I have been working on since day one together.
Yep.
Because Malcolm came to us kind of branded as a handyman. And as a lot of you guys who are in the remodeling industry know, handyman kind of get coined as this lower skill, you know, cheaper type of service. And so what we've been doing is we've been kind of rebranding him. And we're really, what's the main thing we're focused on in the sales process, Malcolm? Building value.
Yeah.
Building value. And
And
so
being able
that
to
is
sell it.
right. It is all about that sales process, because bottom line is your business has to be profitable. You have to charge what you need to charge to make your margins. If you can't do that, then what's the flipping point? Just get a job. This is too much work for not making anything. It doesn't make sense. And so without value, the only thing that people are worried about is price. Malcolm, if you could, what are some of the things that you're doing differently in that sales process than what you were doing before to help build that value?
A few things. Number one, I heard him say he's providing estimates. One thing I started doing is it doesn't always happen. I adapt it a little bit. In an ideal world, you do not give an estimate until you're on the phone with them. Number
or
one.
in person.
Yeah,
100%.
in person is the best way, because it's almost like they have nowhere to run if you're in person. You know, if you send it on an email or something, they can ignore your email, ignore your text, blah, 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 blah. But if you're on the phone call or in front of them, they can't ignore it. And then when people are running the price check, I found that I'm getting better, because your Google reviews is going to make people want to call you. They want you to do it. So you can really kind of charge what you want, because they're going to say, well,
they're already sold on you.
Yep. I had a guy just yesterday. He reached back out to me. He wanted some drywall holes patched or whatever. I gave him a price. He said, "Is this your best price?" I said, "Oh, I got him." As soon as he said that, I got him, because I can, you know, he wants a better price, but he wants me to do it. So
yeah,
you know,
when
like
people
you said,
complain but still pay, that's where you're at.
True.
Malcolm, I appreciate you sharing here, sir. But I think we have like at least 3 or 4 other group calls that target that exact thing. And so ask your coach about that, and worry. Thanks, Malcolm.
Yeah, no, thanks for that question. Yeah, because it is, I mean, I did make the tease there of, hey, this could be a part of your sales process, really identifying what separates you from the other people, as well as just being clear and upfront with communication. That's a huge thing too. Again, with Nicole, she said that when you, until you provide value or you make it about value, people only care about price. So that's more in the sales process, but even if you have your pricing where you need it to be, you know, these margins that you're trying to hit, then be confident in those and know that you found the reason for them, and that's your pricing. And when they say that's not your customer, you know, there's good content in some of the other group calls, and I'm sure you can cover with Julia in more depth about that. So, okay, back into our stuff here. So estimate comparisons, man, Bryce, that sounds great. Great idea, but I don't have these numbers to start with. Awesome. Let's talk about that. So this is what Shaytoya said in the chat a minute ago. When your expenses outpace customer payments, we've got to track it before it's an issue. This right here, guys, is what separates wealthy remodelers and construction service tradesmen from struggling remodelers, is an obsession with managing the expenses and the job with the goal of finishing better than you even planned. Again, looking inwardly here, we want to get to a place where we are not reactive anymore and we're able to be more proactive. The fix oftentimes isn't selling more jobs, but oftentimes could be just doing better on the jobs that are actually sold. So we have to stay ahead of the money. This is a throwback or a callback to the last time that we talked about this. The rule that we have to keep in our minds here is do not spend money that you have not received. Don't spend money that you haven't received. How do we keep track of that? Simply on the jobs that you have going on right now. It doesn't have to be complicated. We don't want it to be complicated. We look at what we've received from a customer and what we've spent for a customer and how much in labor hours have we done on this job. If we're filling this out, say we've gotten $5,000 from a customer and we've spent $2,500 and we've logged, 15 hours, that is going to cost us $1,700. We can see as we're going along through the job that we still need to get, or we're just about to run out of money from this customer, and I need to fix this spreadsheet as we're talking about it, pardon me. So we've got $800 left to spend on this job before we run out of money. So hopefully, ideally, we should either be close to another draw already set up in the draw schedule, or we need to figure out why we're behind. Why are we overspending? Did we not budget for the materials properly? What's causing these issues here? We track it as the job is going on. Okay.
If you build that into your contracts, because I don't do this, but say, I just started a job, $68,000 basement build out. What I do with all mine is when I do the bid and I'm preparing my contract, I know that, okay, I'm going to take this amount of money because at the start of the job, I've got to get the treated lumber, the studs, this or that. That's going to start me. So I'll take mine with, basically I do this, but I do this within my contract because I know that I'm going to take this. And once I get to this point, I'm break even. So that's when another payment is due. And I also build in there that the job stops until that payment is received.
Yeah. You can do it that way. We, through experience, would recommend that by your experience, you're able to estimate and set up a draw schedule based on completion points. This right here, what I'm talking about is an internal process. We do this internally where we're tracking and making sure so that we can be better every single time from this point forward is more of the focus here. As far as building into the contract, Gary, I think you did what you said is we're at this billable point. If money has not been received, then we're going to stop on the project until that has been received. So I think you already have it set up in the way that you need to in your contract, if I understand you correctly.
Gary actually uses a similar tracking spreadsheet to track his expenses throughout the job. So
Nice.
keep at it.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's great. That's what we're trying to get to happen here. And Gary, you'd be in a position to be able to do some estimate comparisons, right? What's happened on the jobs now. Let's compare it to what you estimated to begin with, and then refine our estimating process from there, right? These are internal things. We're looking inwardly. How do we fix the cash flow in steps going forward. And I'll say too, this is absolutely a task that can be delegated. So we want to inspire the same understanding in our team of how important these numbers are. You know, let them see and be responsible for the numbers. How much is budgeted? And now you need to track how much we're spending at the end of the day. You know, if you have project managers or even your technicians, if you're a service-based company, they should know that that the numbers are important. You know, if you say, hey, I'm trusting you with the management of this. This is a lot of money. This is important. Every dollar that we go over, like, this is your responsibility. If you're owning this job, if you're managing this project, you need to keep track of it. I'm going to give you the tools to equip you. And then we have to create and keep a weekly time to review this with them. You know, if you're delegating this task, accountability, oh, Jonathan's quote's on the wall here. Without accountability, a process is just wishful thinking. We have it quoted up on the wall. The predictability of accountability is also so important. Again, Jonathan Rood said that, but we give a system and we follow up on that system. We're not micromanaging here. We're just saying, hey, here's the tool, track your expenses. We got to make sure that we're not outpacing customer payments when we're working a job. Again, this can be a selling point. Once you have this as a regular part of your operation, being able to tell a customer truthfully, hey, we know our pricing is accurate. We know our estimating is accurate because we reviewed on a regular basis. Your project manager is going to be tracking the expenses before it becomes an issue. We're not going to come asking you for money because we messed up. No, we're on top of our stuff. We know what's going on our projects way better than most of the guys that are out there because we track it on a regular basis. Okay. This is our third part here that we're transitioning into. A lot of you guys are pretty familiar with a look of this, whether you're a plumber, electrician, remodeler, any of these other things, you know what a supply house looks like. But whether you're a plumbing company or a remodeler, what I want to really push into here is you are not a cleverly disguised bank that has more complexity to deal with. Don't let yourself become that. Don't let people make you a cleverly disguised bank. We're plumbers, we're electricians, we're remodelers, for gosh dang it. So don't let people make you a disguised bank that has a lot more complexity and issues to deal with, because you're not. As far as I know, Redmond Growth, we are not working with any banks. This buy now, pay later option is really trendy. It's also really foolish. If you're frustrated with having to keep
Thumbs up
with
from Bobby.
Yeah. If you're frustrated with having to keep up with collections, offer financing as an option so that you don't have to deal with the logistical nightmare of hounding somebody down for payment. Again, buy now, pay later options are popular, but make sure you're on the right side of them. Don't feel obligated to be a financial advisor to customers. If they want to do the job, we make a way for them to be able to do the job. It's up to them to decide if it's a financially wise decision, right? We can overcomplicate things and make ourselves what we are not by trying to do too much. Stay true to your core operation. What do you do as a company? We make spaces great. You know, we fix broken things. Okay, fix those broken things. If they need it done, they need it done. Hey, you can't really afford this. Okay, we can either set up a payment plan or we can offer financing to you and make that available. This way, if you have issues with the cash flow or people are not paying on time, a collection agency gets to be a collection agency and not you. You should not be a bank. So don't let yourself become a bank. In this same
want to overemphasize something. Sometimes when we say offer financing, I've had some clients be like, well, I don't want to fund this job. Isn't that what you're telling me not to do? We're saying literally pair up with a bank, and we're going to go over in the breakout rooms of options that we've seen work well. Well, you have a lot of clients offer financing. You are not funding it. You are partnering up with a financing company. They get approved through the financing company. Their loan is through the financing company. The financing company gives you the money to do the work, and then the client has to pay the financing company.
Right.
So, overemphasize.
Yes.
Third-party financing is what Rudy just typed into the chat. That is the term, and that is what we're encouraging.
Forgive me for I have sinned. I did not clarify correctly. Yes, thank you for that. Yes, we're not talking about you being the financing. We're saying the exact opposite. You know, you don't need to front the money for a job. Let the customer make that decision. Okay. Other ways that we are being a bank. Don't create interest-free loans. What do I mean by that? Carrots and sticks are a package deal. If there are missed payments or a customer goes behind, is there some penalty? You know, like Gary talked about, you know, the job can't continue until we get paid. That's a form of a penalty. But you're giving grace if you're going to keep working on a project, or if you're going to allow somebody to kind of go into your collections process, you're giving grace with that. But there's also a consequence, and that's just life. There are consequences to choices and actions. So you're giving grace. There's also a consequence if that grace is lapsed upon. So an option, there's many ways to do this, but put it into your contracts about late final payments or late payments in general. You know, we have a 7-day grace period, but we charge $25 a day each day that the payment is late beyond that grace period. It's simple. It's not a huge amount, and it makes it incentivizing for somebody to actually just get it done, get it over with. You're going to be
Bryce,
managing it. Go ahead.
Is that because you're just trying to maximize profits and get as much money as you can from the customer?
No. What is $25 going to do?
Right.
No.
I think it is an important note. It's like, well, what's $25 going to do for me? No, not very much, but what is it going to do for the customer? It's going to remind them that they got to pay this on time. That's the most important part.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. And this is an option. Oh, yeah. I heard somebody.
Yes. Of course, adding this into the contracts for the next time, boom, boom. Is there a way, I guess if you have, for me, I'm using me example, I have a job where I didn't, do all this, so I'm kind of trying to clean up the mess, where the customer not paying and blase, blase. Is there a way to kind of get this going somehow now, or do I just got to kind of bite the bullet because I didn't set all this up from the start?
So what you've already set up and established in place, you shouldn't change. If you're going to be charging a customer more, you shouldn't change it after the fact. This is not necessarily best practice, and I actually don't even know if you can really do this, but this would be my first thought, is if you get set up with financing and somebody's having payment issues, try to get them approved for financing after the fact. Again, let the collection agency be the collection agency. Again, I'm not saying that as Kristen's knowledge of, this is best practice. I don't know if you actually can do that, but that would be one of my first thoughts, is if you have financing available, try to get them approved through that and say, hey, I know you can't pay me directly like you wanted to for the job. Let me offload this to them. You can get approved for your financing, get that covered, and then you get paid, move on your merry way.
All right.
That'd be my first thought. Great question. All righty. That is it for me. I've said my piece, and I'm happy